You're listening to Tales by WZ. Today's story is about a man whose wife demanded he hand over his inherited house to her sister, then acted shocked when he took her divorce threat seriously. As you listen, ask yourself where your line is when helping family turns into entitlement. My wife said, "Give her the house," I replied, "then file the divorce." Then I moved into the inherited place, lawyered up, served her at work, and let her family spiral until her sister showed up at the rental claiming it was hers. I'm 36, and 2 years ago I inherited my grandparents' house. It's a simple 3-bedroom, 2-bath place, nothing flashy, but it's paid off and it's full of my grandfather's work. He was a master carpenter. He built most of the furniture himself. There's a dining table he made from a single oak tree that fell on their property back in the 70s. It took him 6 months. It seats 12 people and doesn't have a single nail in it. All joinery, the kind of craftsmanship you don't see anymore. That house isn't just property to me, it's a legacy. I've been married to my wife, 34, for 5 years. We've been renting an apartment. When I inherited the house, we decided to keep it as a rental property for now. It had good tenants, an older couple. The rent covered property taxes and insurance with a bit left over. My wife seemed fine with it. We talked about moving in one day or selling it later for a down payment on our own place. There wasn't pressure. It was a plan. Then last week happened. She came home from lunch with her sister, and I could tell immediately something was off. She had that look. The look that says she already decided what the right answer is, and you're about to be the villain if you don't agree. She said, "We need to talk about the house." I said, "What about it?" She said, "My sister's lease is up next month. Rent is insane right now. I think we should let her live there." At first, I thought she meant later when the current tenant's lease ended, but even then I was uneasy. I said, "They have 8 months left on their lease." She waved it off like details didn't matter. After that, and maybe she'd have to pay rent though. That word, maybe, stood out. I said, "We can't just let someone live there for free. Property taxes alone are $4,000 a year, plus insurance, maintenance, repairs. The rental income covers all of that." Her face tightened. She's family. She shouldn't have to pay. This is where I felt the conversation shift. It wasn't about helping. It was about entitlement. I said, "If you want to help her, we can help her budget. We can even spot her cash if she's short 1 month. But letting her live there free, that's not realistic, and mixing family with landlord stuff is a bad idea." Her expression went cold, and then she said it. "I think you should just give her the house." I actually laughed because it sounded like a joke. Give her the house. My inheritance. She didn't laugh. She stared at me like I was the one being unreasonable. "She needs it. We don't. We have our apartment. She's drowning in debt, barely making ends meet. That's what family does. They help." I said, "Helping is not handing someone a $300,000 asset." She leaned forward like she was making a moral argument. "It's just sitting there. You're hoarding a whole house while my sister struggles." I said, "It's not sitting there. It's generating income. It's part of our future. We talked about selling it one day for a down payment." She said, "Plans change. My sister is family." Then came the line that made my stomach drop. "If you really loved me, you'd want to help her. That's not a request, that's a test, and it's a rigged one." I said, "I do love you, but I'm not giving away my grandparents' house." She stared at me for a moment, then said, "If you won't do this, maybe we need to reconsider this marriage." That was the moment everything clicked. A threat like that isn't about the house. It's about control. I said, "Did you seriously just threaten divorce?" She shrugged like she was being reasonable. "I'm saying if you're this selfish, I don't know if I can be with someone like that." I sat there for a second and something in me just went quiet, like a switch flipped. I said, "Okay." She looked relieved for half a second like she thought I was folding. Then I said, "Okay, let's get divorced." Her face went white. "What?" I said. "You threatened divorce, I accept. I'm not giving away my house. If that ends our marriage, then it ends." She immediately started backpedaling. "Wait, I didn't mean it like that." I said, "You meant it. You just didn't think I'd agree." She tried to change the story in real time. She said she was emotional. She said I was overreacting. She said she was only trying to help her sister. But I was done. Because here's the truth. When someone uses divorce as a weapon, they're telling you what kind of marriage they want. A marriage where you comply or you get threatened. I told her I needed space and I left. That night I stayed at the house. Not because it was dramatic, but because I needed to breathe where everything still felt honest. The next 5 days were chaos. Her sister texted me, "You're a selfish piece of garbage. I can't believe my sister married someone so heartless. You're ruining my life." We had met maybe 10 times. I wasn't ruining her life. I was just not giving her a free house. Her mom left this voicemail about how I was tearing the family apart and what my grandparents would think of me being greedy. I remember thinking my grandparents would be proud they protected their legacy by leaving the house to me, specifically to me, not to a spouse, not to whoever demands it loudest. My wife bounced between apologizing and getting angry at me for taking it too far. Her most recent text was, "We need to talk. I love you. Maybe we can work something out with my sister." Work something out. Still, that's when I called a divorce lawyer. The consultation was the first moment I felt grounded again. She reviewed everything. The deed, the will, the lease with the tenants, bank statements. Then she looked at me and said, "The house is solely your separate property. Inherited assets don't become marital property in this state unless you've significantly commingled funds or added her name to the deed." "Did you?" I said. "Never. The rental income goes into a separate account. Everything house-related comes out of that account." "Perfect," she said. "She has zero legal claim to that house." She explained the rest would still get divided. Anything acquired during the marriage, savings, retirement contributions during the marriage, maybe temporary support because of income disparity. My wife worked part-time at a boutique, bringing home around $1,800 a month. The lawyer said I'd likely pay support for about 18 to 24 months. Around $1,000 a month, give or take, depending on the final numbers. But the house was protected. That was the boundary line I needed to hear. I filed the next day and had her served at work. The meltdown that followed was immediate. She called screaming, "You filed for real." I said, "You threatened divorce. I'm following through." "I didn't mean it," she cried. "You were supposed to realize you were wrong." That sentence told me everything. She thought divorce was a bluff, a threat to scare me into giving in. I said, "I'm not wrong. You demanded I give away my inheritance." I said, "No. You threatened divorce." "Here we are," she kept yelling. "My sister needs that house. She's going to be homeless." I said, "Your sister needs to figure out her finances. That's not my problem." She tried guilt. "I can't believe you're doing this after everything we've been through." I said, "After everything we've been through, you still chose your sister's demands over our marriage." I blocked her number and left email open for legal communication. Then her family went into overdrive. Her sister showed up at my workplace, in the lobby, causing a scene. Security had to remove her while she screamed that I owed her because that's what family does. My boss called me in afterward and said, "You okay?" I said, "I'm getting divorced. My wife thinks I should give her sister my inherited house." He just stared for a second, then shook his head. "Some people, man." Then her mom called my mom. "Big mistake. My mom doesn't do manipulation. She doesn't get pulled into emotional hostage situations." My mom told her, "Your daughter tried to bully my son into giving away his inheritance to her entitled sister. Now she's mad. There are consequences. She can kick rocks." Her mom started crying, apparently. My mom ended the call. That part mattered to me more than I expected. Because when you're being gaslit by an entire family, having one sane voice helps you stay steady. Her dad called me too. He was usually the reasonable one. He said, "Son, I know you're angry, but my daughter loves you. Can't you work this out?" I said, "Sir, she threatened to divorce me if I didn't give away my house to her sister. There's nothing to work out." He tried to minimize it. "The house is just property. Your marriage should matter more. I said, that house is my grandparents' legacy. They left it to me. If my wife can't respect that, then no, the marriage doesn't matter more than being threatened into giving away what's mine. He told me I'd regret it. I told him maybe I would, but I'd have my dignity. Then came the moment that pushed it from messy to dangerous. The tenants called me, panicked. My wife's sister showed up at the house and tried to get inside. Told them they needed to start packing because she was moving in next month. That's not just entitlement. That's harassment. I called my lawyer immediately. She sent a cease and desist to the sister for harassment and trespassing. She also sent the tenants a letter confirming their lease was solid and told them to call the police if anyone showed up again. My wife, through her lawyer, requested mediation to explore reconciliation. My lawyer replied, "Client declines. Divorce proceedings continue." Discovery started, and my wife's attorney tried a ridiculous angle, that she had a stake in the house due to emotional labor and contributions to upkeep. Their evidence was basically nothing. Photos of her at the house during the initial tenant walkthrough. Texts where she gave opinions on tenants. Receipts for cleaning supplies that weren't even for the rental. My lawyer had bank statements showing rental income never touched our joint account. Deed in my name. Property taxes paid from my separate account. Maintenance receipts with my signature. The actual will. The judge shut it down fast, called it meritless and borderline frivolous. My wife looked like she wanted to disappear. Then the social media posts started. Her sister posted about how people who inherit houses and refuse to help family are heartless, and how her sisters, SDBXH, would rather see her homeless. Half the comments were people saying, "It's his inheritance," and the other half were the usual crowd acting like boundaries are cruelty. She wrote, "He married into this family. That makes the house partially ours. Family helps family." I sent the screenshot to my lawyer. She added it to the file as more harassment and entitlement in writing. Meanwhile, reality hit my wife. She couldn't afford our apartment on her own. Lease was in both our names. So she moved back with her parents. Her mom called me again, furious. "My daughter is living in her childhood bedroom at 34 because of you." I said, "No, she's living there because of her ultimatum. You make $6,000 a month, you could have just helped." I said, "She threatened divorce if I didn't give away my inheritance. These are consequences." Her mom said, "It's just a house. Houses aren't worth more than people." I said, "Then she should have thought about that before she chose her sister over our marriage." Then I blocked her too. Mediation was exactly what you'd expect. Her lawyer pushed for $2,000 a month for 3 years, half my retirement, half of all rental income during our marriage. The car. My lawyer countered, $800 a month for 18 months, standard split of marital retirement contributions, 0 rental income, and she keeps the car with me off the title. Her lawyer tried the angle that she shouldn't have to find full-time work. My lawyer said, "She's 34, healthy, no dependents. Part-time is a choice. My client is not funding her lifestyle indefinitely." The judge sided mostly with us. $1,000 a month for 2 years, half the marital retirement, split the joint savings. I paid some attorney fees, and the house wasn't even discussed. It was mine. Period. Watching my wife's face when she realized that the house she tried to give away was never on the table was something I won't forget. She looked at me crying and said, "Is this really worth it? Ending everything over this?" I said, "You ended it when you made the ultimatum." "I'm just finishing what you started," she said. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it." I said, "That's the problem. You thought you could threaten me into giving away my grandparents' legacy. You were wrong." Divorce finalized about 3 months later. The tenants' lease ended and they moved into their own place. Good people. I was genuinely happy for them. I moved into the house and started fixing it up. A new roof cost close to $9,000, but the rental income I'd been saving covered most of it. In the garage, I found my grandfather's old woodworking tools. I also found sketches, plans for matching chairs that went with the dining table. Plans he never got to finish, so I started learning. And a few months later, I finished 2 of the chairs. They weren't perfect, but they were real. They were done with his tools in his house, next to his table. It felt like the first peaceful thing I'd done in a long time. My ex tried one more time to break through. She showed up at the house about 6 weeks after everything was final. I had a video doorbell by then. "Please," she said through the camera. "I just want to talk for 5 minutes," I said. "We're divorced. There's nothing to talk about." "I made a mistake. I see that now. I was wrong about the house thing," I said. "Cool. Have a nice life. Please, I miss you." "I miss us. Can't we start over?" I said. "No." She got desperate. "So 5 years meant nothing," I said. "5 years meant something until you decided your sister's money problems were more important than our marriage." She tried again. "I was just trying to help family." I said, "By demanding I give away mine." Then she slipped, and I heard the real reason she was there. "The support payments end in less than 2 years," she said. "What am I supposed to do then?" There it was, not love, not regret, fear of the future bill coming due. I said, "Get a full-time job, figure it out." She stared at the door like she couldn't believe I wouldn't fix her life for her. Then she left. I didn't hear from her after that, but the sister's situation did exactly what it was always going to do. She got evicted. The BMW she couldn't afford got repossessed. She started couch surfing, and somehow it was still my fault. Because in her mind, if I had handed her a free house, she wouldn't have consequences. That's the kind of thinking that destroys people. My ex's mom sent one last text. "I hope you're happy. My daughter is struggling because of your selfishness." I didn't respond, I blocked it. And honestly, yes, I'm getting there. The divorce cost me money. Retirement split, legal fees, support payments, but it bought me peace. I started seeing someone new slowly. She came over one night and we sat at that oak table. She ran her fingers along the joinery and said, "Anyone who threatens to leave over you protecting this doesn't deserve you." That stuck with me. My mom visited and saw the chairs I finished. She got emotional. "Your grandfather would be proud of you," she said. "Not just for the woodworking, for standing my ground. Some people will say I chose property over a person. They're wrong. I chose boundaries over manipulation. I chose legacy over entitlement. I chose self-respect over threats." Lesson 1. If someone uses divorce as a threat to force your hand, believe them and protect yourself. Lesson 2. Helping family is a choice, not an obligation, and it never includes surrendering your future to someone else's bad decisions. Lesson 3. An inheritance is not a community prize. It belongs to the person it was left to, and that should be respected. Lesson 4. If a partner's loyalty always flows toward their family first, and you only matter when you comply, that's not partnership. Lesson 5. Boundaries feel harsh to people who benefit from you having none. What would you have done the moment your spouse said, "Give my sister the house"? And if someone threatened divorce to get what they wanted, would you try to repair it, or would you take them at their word and walk away?